My name is Vicki. I'm 29 years old, and what happened last Tuesday still makes my hands shake. At exactly 2:03 a.m., my phone rang, lighting up my dark bedroom with a name that made my blood freeze. Mom. Impossible since she died 3 years ago from cancer. I answered with trembling fingers and heard her voice clear as day. Vicki, honey, open the door. I'm so cold out here. Then came the soft knocking downstairs. Before we dive into this terrifying experience, I'd love to know where you're watching from tonight. Are you alone? Maybe grab someone to sit with you because trust me, after hearing my story, you won't want to be by yourself. If strange things have happened to you after losing someone, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support helps me share these important stories. Now let me tell you exactly what happened when I heard my dead mother's voice asking to come inside. I sat frozen in my bed, the phone still pressed against my ear, my mother's voice continuing to flow through the speaker like honey mixed with broken glass. Please, sweetie, I know it's late, but I need to come in. The voice was perfect down to her slight Michigan accent and the way she always called me sweetie when she wanted something. But my mother had been dead for 3 years. I had held her hand in the hospice, felt it grow cold, watched her chest rise and fall for the last time. The cancer had taken her on a humid August evening, and we had buried her in Woodlawn Cemetery next to my father. The knocking grew more insistent, moving from soft taps to firm raps against the old wooden door. Then the doorbell rang, its cheerful chime obscenely wrong at this hour and in this context. My hands shook as I grabbed the baseball bat from my closet, a gift from my father before he passed 5 years ago. He had insisted I keep it for protection since I lived alone in our childhood home in suburban Detroit. The floorboards creaked under my bare feet as I crept toward the window that overlooked the front porch. What I saw there made my knees buckle. A figure stood on the porch wearing my mother's favorite purple coat, the one we had donated to Goodwill after her death. The hood was up, obscuring the face, but the height was right, the posture familiar. As if sensing my presence, the figure tilted its head up toward my window. The porch light illuminated a face I knew better than my own. It was my mother, but something was terribly wrong with her eyes. They were solid black, reflecting the porch light like oil slicks. "I can see you at the window, honey," the voice on the phone said, and the figure's lips moved in perfect synchronization. "Why won't you let me in? I'm your mother." My finger moved to end the call, but I couldn't do it. Some desperate part of me wanted to keep hearing her voice, even if it was wrong, even if it was impossible. Instead, I dialed my sister Emma with my other hand, my fingers fumbling with the screen. She lived across town in Royal Oak, only 20 minutes away. The phone rang 4 times before she answered, her voice thick with sleep and irritation. "Vicki, it's the middle of the night. What's wrong?" "Emma, something's happening. Someone who looks like Mom is at my door." I heard her sharp intake of breath, then rustling as she sat up. "What do you mean, someone who looks like Mom?" "I mean exactly that. She called me Em. Mom called me, and she's standing on my porch right now asking to come in." "That's not funny, Vicki. Mom is dead. We both know that." "I'm not joking." My voice cracked with fear and frustration. "Look at your phone. Look at my call history if you don't believe me." There was a long pause, then Emma's voice came back smaller and more frightened. "Vicki, I've been getting calls too. For weeks now. Always at night, always from numbers I don't recognize, but when I answer it sounds like her. I thought someone was playing a sick joke. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I thought I was going crazy, because our mother is dead, and dead people don't make phone calls." She was crying now, and I could hear her partner Grace in the background asking what was wrong. "Emma, there's more. She mentioned Aunt Diane has been asking questions about Mom's inheritance. Have you heard from her?" "Diane, Mom's sister. She hasn't spoken to any of us since the funeral. She was furious about being left out of the will." Emma paused. "Wait, Mom mentioned Diane. What exactly did she say?" I realized my mistake too late. The voice on the phone hadn't mentioned Diane at all. That thought had just appeared in my mind as clear and certain as if someone had placed it there. The figure on my porch hadn't moved still, staring up at my window with those terrible black eyes. I can help you remember everything," the voice on the phone whispered, and now it didn't sound exactly like my mother anymore. It was close, but there was something underneath, like another voice speaking in unison. All those precious memories you're already starting to forget. Her laugh, the way she smelled like vanilla, and cigarettes she thought she hid from you, how she used to braid your hair before school. I have all of that, Vicki. Just open the door. Against every instinct screaming in my head, I found myself walking toward the stairs. My feet moved without my permission, each step deliberate and mechanical. The baseball bat slipped from my numb fingers, clattering on the hardwood floor. Emma's voice came through my other phone, tiny and distant, calling my name over and over. "So that's it, sweetie," the thing that sounded like my mother crooned. "Just a few more steps. I've missed you so much. We have so much to talk about." I descended the stairs like a sleepwalker, my hand trailing along the banister my mother had polished every Saturday for 30 years. Through the frosted glass beside the door, I could see the purple coat, the familiar silhouette. My hand reached for the deadbolt fingers closing around the cold metal. Just as I was about to turn it, my phone erupted with a text notification so loud it broke whatever spell had fallen over me. The message was from an unknown number, just one word, "Don't." I jerked my hand back as if the deadbolt had burned me. The figure on the porch let out a sound that no human throat could make, a wet screech that made my windows vibrate. Then, between one blink and the next, it vanished. The only evidence it had been there at all was a puddle of black liquid on my welcome mat, and the lingering smell of vanilla mixed with something rotten. "Vicki, Vicki, answer me." Emma's voice finally broke through my shock. "I'm here," I whispered, backing away from the door on shaking legs. "Em, we need to call everyone. Todd, Janet, everyone. Something is very wrong, and I don't think this is over." I'm already getting dressed. "Don't you dare open that door for anyone until I get there, do you understand? Not for Mom, not for Dad, not for anyone." I nodded, then remembered she couldn't see me. "Okay. Emma, what if it comes back? Then we face it together. I'm calling Todd now. We'll figure this out." As I hung up, I noticed the puddle on my porch was moving, crawling across the concrete like it was alive, leaving a trail that spelled out words I didn't want to read. I turned off the porch light and retreated to my kitchen, where I sat with every light blazing until Emma arrived, my eyes fixed on the door, waiting for the next knock that I somehow knew would come. The next morning felt surreal sunlight streaming through Emma's kitchen windows, as if the nightmare of the previous night had been just that, a nightmare. But the group of us gathered around her dining table knew better. Emma had insisted I stay at her place, and by 9 a.m. she had summoned what remained of our family. My older brother Todd sat across from me, his usually perfect lawyer appearance disheveled, dark circles under his eyes. Our cousin Janet perched nervously at the end of the table, clutching a cup of coffee like a lifeline. "So we're all just going to pretend this is normal." Todd finally broke the silence, his voice carrying that courtroom authority he'd perfected over the years. "Our dead mother is apparently making house calls." "Something is," I said quietly. "Whether it's her or not, I don't know. But Emma's been getting calls too." Todd's jaw tightened. He loosened his tie with one hand, a gesture I remembered from childhood when he was stressed. "Yeah, well, join the club. I've been having dreams, nightmares really. Every night for the past 2 months, Mom's in my bedroom standing at the foot of my bed, just watching me. She never says anything in the dreams, but when I wake up, I smell her perfume." White shoulders. Emma and I said in unison. Mom had worn the same perfume for 40 years. "This is insane," Janet interjected, her voice shaking. She was younger than us, only 33, and had always been the nervous type. But there was something else in her expression now, something that looked like guilt. "Dead people don't make phone calls or visit their children. There has to be a logical explanation." "Actually," Janet continued, setting down her coffee cup with trembling hands, "there's something I need to tell you all. I've been going through Grandma's things in the attic. You know how Mom always said she was an only child? I found birth certificates. 2 of them. Same date, same time, just minutes apart. Your mother had a twin sister who died at birth. The name on the certificate was Diana." The silence that followed was deafening. Emma gripped my hand under the table, her nails digging into my palm. "That's impossible," Todd said flatly. "Mom would have told us. Someone would have told us. Would they? Janet pulled out her phone, showing us photos of the documents. Look at the dates. Look at the names. Roseanne Henderson and Diana Marie Henderson, born April 3rd, 1952. But Aunt Diane... Emma started, then stopped, her face going pale. Oh my God, Mom's sister Diane. We always thought she was just estranged, but what if... The doorbell rang, cutting through our speculation like a blade. We all froze, exchanging terrified glances. It was 10 in the morning, broad daylight, but after last night, none of us felt safe. Grace, Emma's partner, went to answer it, and we heard muffled voices in the foyer. Aunt Diane walked into the kitchen like she owned it, which was typical of her. She was Mom's younger sister or so, we'd always believed, 68 years old, with steel gray hair and eyes like chips of ice. She wore an expensive pantsuit and carried herself with the bitter dignity of someone who felt perpetually wronged by the world. She hadn't spoken to any of us since Mom's funeral, where she'd made a scene about being left out of the will. Well, she said, surveying our group with obvious disdain. Isn't this cozy? A little family reunion, and nobody thought to invite me. How did you know we were here? Emma demanded. Diane's smile was sharp as broken glass. Oh, I have my ways. You'd be surprised what you can learn when you pay attention. For instance, I know about your late-night visitor, Vicki. Quite the performance, wasn't it? The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Todd stood up slowly, using his full height to tower over our aunt. What did you just say? Sit down, nephew. The adults are talking. Diane pulled out a chair and sat down uninvited. You all look so shocked. Did you really think your mother's death was the end of it? She took secrets to her grave that should have stayed buried, and now they're clawing their way back up. Enough riddles, I snapped. If you know something, just say it. Fine. Your mother and I weren't sisters. We were cousins. The real Diane died at birth, just like your little researcher here discovered. She nodded at Janet, who shrank back in her chair. My mother, your great-aunt, lost her baby the same day Rose was born. So when Rose's twin died, they made a deal. Raised me as Rose's sister, kept the family together. One big happy lie. You're lying, Emma said, but her voice lacked conviction. Am I your mother knew the truth, found out when we were teenagers. She held it over my head. Our entire lives used it to keep me in line, to make sure I never got too close to the family money. And when she died, she made sure I got nothing, not a penny, not even a mention in the will. Diane's composure cracked slightly, revealing depths of rage that made my skin crawl. So, yes, I hired someone to scare you a little. Make you think about sharing what should have been partly mine. But whoever was at your door last night, Vicki, that wasn't part of my plan. You hired someone. Todd's voice was dangerously quiet. You hired someone to impersonate our dead mother. A performance artist, very talented. Does voices, special effects, the whole 9 yards. Her name is Madeline Cross. She's been setting up equipment in Grandma's old house, the one on Maple Street that's been empty since she died. High-tech stuff, holograms, voice synthesizers. Very convincing, apparently. Diane's smile returned. But Madeline called me at 3 this morning in hysterics. Said something went wrong with the seance equipment. Said something else showed up, something that wasn't part of the show. Before any of us could respond, both Emma's and my phones began ringing. The caller ID on both showed the same thing, Dad. Our father, who had died 5 years ago. Emma and I looked at each other, then answered simultaneously. The voice that came through was unmistakably our father's, right down to his little cough before speaking. Girls, your mother's in trouble. She's trapped and you need to help her. Come to the old house. Hurry. This is your doing. Todd snarled at Diane, but she had gone pale, shaking her head. That's not... Madeline doesn't have recordings of your father. I never gave her anything about him. We heard it then, the sound of a car engine starting in the driveway. Emma's car. We rushed to the window to see it backing out, the driver's seat visibly empty. The steering wheel turned on its own, and the car pulled away smoothly, as if guided by invisible hands. The security cameras, Grace said, already pulling up the app on her phone. We crowded around to watch the footage. The car doors had opened on their own, the engine had started without keys, and the vehicle had driven away with absolutely no one inside. The old house, I whispered. It's going to Grandma's old house. Then that's where we need to go, Todd said, grabbing his keys. All of us. Whatever's happening, we face it together. Diane stood up abruptly. This wasn't supposed to happen. Madeline promised me it was just technology, just tricks. I didn't sign up for... She trailed off, real fear replacing her earlier bravado. You're coming with us, Emma said coldly. You started this mess. You're going to help us finish it. As we prepared to leave, Janet pulled me aside. Vicki, there's something else I found in those papers. Something about the twin who died. The death certificate said Diana, but there was a note attached. It said the baby showed signs of life for 13 minutes after birth. 13 minutes of screaming before she went quiet. And when she died, her eyes were solid black. I thought of the thing on my porch with oil-slick eyes and felt my blood turn to ice. We piled into Todd's SUV, 7 of us crammed together, driving toward answers I wasn't sure I wanted to find. The haunting had only just begun, and somewhere in Grandma's old house, something that wore our loved ones' faces was waiting for us. Grandma's old house squatted on Maple Street like a cancerous growth, its Victorian bones twisted with neglect and secrets. Emma's empty car sat in the driveway engine, still running headlights cutting through the late morning shadows that seemed too dark for the time of day. We pulled up behind it, and I could feel the wrongness of the place pressing against my skin like cold, dead fingers. I really think we should call the police, Grace said, but even as the words left her mouth, she was climbing out of the SUV with the rest of us. Something about this house demanded witness pulled us forward against our better judgment. The front door stood open, hanging crooked on its hinges as if something large had forced its way through. From inside came the sound of voices, multiple conversations overlapping in an incomprehensible cacophony. Some of them I recognized: Mom, Dad, Grandma, even Grandpa, who died when I was 5. All talking at once, their words blurring into static. Diane led us through the doorway, her earlier confidence evaporating with each step. Madeline, she called out. Madeline, where are you? Turn off the equipment. Show's over. A laugh echoed from the basement, high and hysterical. Then, footsteps on the stairs, quick and frantic. A woman burst into the foyer, wild-eyed and shaking. She was young, maybe 30, with elaborate tattoos covering her arms and equipment bags slung over both shoulders. This had to be Madeline Cross, the performance artist Diane had hired. You, she pointed at Diane with a trembling finger. You said this was just a con job. You said we were just going to scare them a little, make them think about the money. You didn't tell me about that. She gestured wildly toward the basement. Calm down, Diane snapped, but I could see fear creeping into her eyes. What happened? What did you do? What did I do? Madeline laughed again, the sound sharp and broken. I set up the projectors like you asked. The voice modulators, the holographic emitters, even the EMF generators to make their phones go crazy. It was all working perfectly. I had the recordings of their mother, the scripts you gave me about family memories. But then something else showed up. Something that wasn't coming from my equipment. She fumbled with one of her bags, pulling out a tablet. Look at this. Just look at it. The screen showed what appeared to be security footage from the basement. In the grainy black and white video, we could see Madeline setting up her elaborate array of technology. Then, the timestamp jumped, and she was backed against the wall, her mouth open in a silent scream as something dark and shapeless loomed over her. It knew things. Madeline continued, her voice dropping to a whisper. Things that weren't in your notes. Private things about my family, about my childhood. It spoke in my grandmother's voice, told me secrets only she would know, and its eyes. God, those black eyes. Enough dramatics, Diane interrupted. Where's the money? The accounts you said you could get them to reveal the access codes. The silence that followed her words was deafening. All of us turned to stare at our aunt, the pieces finally clicking into place. Money. Emma's voice was deadly quiet. What money, Diane? It was Todd who answered his lawyer's mind, already parsing the implications. The inheritance. It was never just about the house and Mom's savings account, was it? There's more. Diane's mask finally slipped completely. Millions, she spat. Your grandfather's patents, the ones he sold to IBM in the 70s. Your mother hid it all in offshore accounts, kept it secret from everyone. I only found out because I hired a forensic accountant after she died. $3 million sitting in accounts that require biometric data from all three of you to access. You're lying, I said. But even as I spoke, I remembered Mom's strange insistence that we all get those DNA tests for family history just months before her diagnosis. The way she'd had us all come to the bank to update signature cards and fingerprint records. Shh, she's not lying, Janet said quietly. Too quietly. We all turned to look at our cousin who was backing slowly toward the door. Is she Mom? The word hung in the air like a poison cloud. Mom. Janet had called Diane Mom. Janet. Emma's voice cracked. What are you saying? Diane grabbed Janet's wrist before she could run. Too late for cold feet now, sweetheart. Tell them. Tell them how we've been planning this for years. Janet, or whoever she really was, looked at us with tears streaming down her face. My name is Janet Cross. Madeline is my sister. Diane is our mother. We've been... God, I'm so sorry. We've been playing a long game getting close to your family, waiting for the right moment. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Janet had been at every family gathering for the past 5 years. She'd cried at Mom's funeral, held our hands through the grief. It had all been a lie. You see, Diane's triumph was ugly and raw. Your precious mother thought she was so clever keeping everyone out of her secret fortune. But I've been planning this since the day she cut me out of the will. My daughters have been my eyes and ears, learning your habits, your fears, your passwords. Except something went wrong. Madeline interjected, still visibly shaken. The thing in the basement isn't part of our plan. It's real, and it's angry, and it wants something we can't give it. As if summoned by her words, the voices from the basement grew louder. The cacophony resolved into a single sound, our mother's voice, but multiplied, speaking from a dozen throats at once. Come down, children. Come down and see what your lies have made. Come down and face what you've awakened. The lights in the house began to flicker. The temperature plummeted until our breath came out in visible puffs. And from the basement doorway, a figure emerged that made my mind rebel against what I was seeing. It looked like Mom, but stretched wrong, as if someone had tried to reconstruct her from memory and gotten the proportions off. Her arms were too long, her neck bent at an impossible angle, and her eyes, those terrible black eyes that reflected nothing and everything at once. You called me back with your grief, it said in that horrible chorus voice. You fed me with your guilt and your secrets and your lies, and now I'm hungry for more. Todd stepped forward, putting himself between us and the thing. You're not our mother. Whatever you are, you're not her. It laughed at the sound like breaking glass. No, I'm what she left behind. I'm every harsh word she wished she could take back, every secret she took to her grave, every bit of pain she caused and never apologized for. I'm the shadow she cast, and you've given me form. The equipment! Madeline shouted suddenly. It's drawing power from my equipment. She dove for her bags, yanking out cables and smashing devices with desperate efficiency. The thing wearing Mom's face flickered like a bad TV signal but didn't disappear. Too late, it crooned. I'm already here, already real, and I know what you really want. Not money, not revenge. You want her back. You want to tell her you're sorry. You want one more chance to say goodbye properly. Its head tilted, further bone cracking audibly. I can give you that. All I need is one of you to take her place. A life for a life. That's only fair, isn't it? No one's taking any deals, Emma said firmly, but I could hear the waver in her voice. We were all thinking the same thing, remembering our last conversations with Mom, all the things left unsaid. The thing's attention swiveled to Janet, who was pressed against the wall, tears still flowing. What about you, false cousin? You played with their hearts, made them believe you cared. Your guilt burns brightest of all. Wouldn't you like to make amends? I do care, Janet whispered. It started as a lie, but I do care about them. They're the only real family I've ever had. Touching. The creature moved closer, its movements jerky and wrong. Then prove it. Take her place in the dark, and I'll give them their mother back. The real one, not a shadow or a trick. 5 minutes to say goodbye properly. Isn't that worth your life? Stop! I shouted, stepping forward. Nobody's sacrificing anything. Mom wouldn't want this. The real mom would never ask this of anyone. The thing turned those oil-slick eyes on me, and I felt its attention like ice water in my veins. Wouldn't she, Vicki, remember how she made you choose between college and staying home to help with Dad's care? Remember how she guilt-tripped Emma for being gay until the day she died? Remember how she played you all against each other for her approval? It smiled with too many teeth. I am exactly what Rose Henderson would want. I am her truest self. The worst part was that it wasn't entirely wrong. Mom had been complicated, difficult, sometimes cruel in her love, but she had also been human, capable of growth and change, even if it came slowly. This thing was only her worst parts magnified and twisted into something monstrous. "You want the money," Todd said suddenly. "Fine, we'll open the accounts. All 3 of us right now. But then you leave. You go back to whatever hell you crawled out of." The creature laughed again. "Oh, Todd, always trying to negotiate your way out. But I don't want money. I want pain. I want secrets. I want the truth you've all been hiding from each other." Its form rippled, and suddenly it was Dad standing there, but with the same wrong proportions, the same black eyes. "Tell them about the affair, son. Tell them why you really couldn't come home those last months of my life." Todd went white. Emma grabbed his arm, but he shook her off. I didn't. Tell them about Mark from your firm. Tell them how you chose him over your dying father. Tell them how you've been lying to your wife for 3 years. The thing's grin widened impossibly. "Or I will." "Stop it!" I screamed. "Stop using their faces. Stop pretending to be them." "But I'm not pretending," it said, shifting back to Mom's distorted form. "I'm the truth you don't want to face. I'm every family secret, every buried shame, every moment of cruelty dressed up as love. And I'm getting stronger. It was right. I could feel it drawing power from our fear, our guilt, our anger at each other. Diane and her daughters had set this trap, but we were the ones giving it teeth. Every accusation, every revealed secret, every moment of pain was feeding this thing that wore our dead mother's face. Then we stop, Emma said quietly. We stop feeding it. We forgive each other. We forgive Mom. We forgive ourselves. The creature hissed like an angry cat. You think it's that easy? You think you can just decide to let go? It moved closer to Emma, and I saw her flinch. Tell them about the pills, Emma. Tell them what you stole from Mom's hospice supply. Tell them what you were planning to do that night I called you. Emma's face crumpled, and suddenly I understood why she'd been so insistent about staying with me last night, why she'd answered her phone so quickly at 2 a.m. She hadn't been asleep at all. Impt, I breathed, reaching for her hand. Later, she whispered. We deal with that later. Right now, we need to get out of here. But the basement door slammed shut, then the front door, then every window in the house. We were trapped with this thing that knew all our secrets, that fed on our pain, that wore our parents' faces like masks. And somewhere in the basement, Diane's equipment continued to hum, continued to give it form and power. The breakers, Madeline said suddenly. Cut the power to the house. It might disrupt whatever connection the equipment has created. Todd nodded. Basement. We have to go through it to get to the breaker box. The creature laughed one more time. Yes, come down to the basement. Come see where it all began. Come see what Rose Henderson really left behind. We looked at each other, a family broken by secrets and lies, but still bound together by something stronger. Even Janet and Madeline, the false cousins who had infiltrated our lives, were part of this now. We would go down into that basement together, face whatever truth waited in the dark. Because that's what family does, even when the family is built on deception, even when love comes twisted with pain. The creature backed toward the basement door, beckoning us with Mom's 2 long arms. Come along, children. Time to see what's behind the last door. Time to learn why Diana really died. I squeezed Emma's hand, felt Todd's presence at my back, and we descended into the darkness together. The basement stairs groaned under our weight, each step down feeling like a descent into a nightmare made manifest. The creature that wore our mother's face glided backward before us, its feet never quite touching the ground, those oil-black eyes never leaving our faces. The air grew thicker with each step, heavy with the smell of old earth and something else, something that made my stomach turn. Vanilla and rot, just like the puddle on my porch. Madeline's equipment filled the basement, a chaotic array of projectors, speakers, and devices I couldn't name, all connected by a web of cables that pulsed with eerie light. But it was clear something had gone very wrong with her setup. Scorch marks decorated the walls where equipment had overloaded. Several projectors sparked and smoked, casting distorted shadows that moved independently of any light source. "My beautiful machines," Madeline whispered, but there was relief in her voice, too. Whatever had happened here, she wanted no more part of it. The creature settled into the center of the room, its form flickering between Mom, Dad, and something else, something that might have been Diana if she had lived and grown wrong. "Do you know what this house really is?" it asked in its chorus voice. "Your grandmother knew. Rose knew. They all knew, and they built their lies on top of it like a foundation." Suddenly, the sparking equipment flared to life, projecting images on every wall. Not the fake holograms Madeline had planned, but something else. Memories pulled from somewhere deeper than technology could reach. I saw my grandmother as a young woman standing in this very basement with a baby in her arms. But there were two babies, and one of them was wrong. Its eyes were black, and it screamed with a voice that wasn't entirely human. "Toe, Diana lived for 13 minutes, the creature said. 13 minutes of agony of being caught between life and death. And in those 13 minutes she found something else. Something that had been waiting in this land for a very long time. The images shifted, showing the history of the house, the land going back decades. A makeshift asylum in the 1800s where patients were left to die in the basement. Before that, indigenous burial grounds disturbed by settlers. Layer upon layer of pain and death, all focused on this spot. Your family built their home on a wound in the world, the creature continued. And Diana, poor little Diana, fell through that wound in her 13 minutes of life. She became a door and I came through. What are you? Todd demanded, ever the lawyer seeking clear answers. I am the accumulation of suffering. I am every person who died here unmourned, every secret buried with the dead, every lie told to protect the living from the truth. The creature's form solidified into something that was all of our dead relatives at once, faces overlapping in impossible ways. And your family has been feeding me for generations. Rose knew. She felt me growing stronger when her parents died, when her husband died. She knew I would come for you eventually. So she hid the money, Emma said, understanding dawning in her eyes. She made it so we had to come together to access it so we wouldn't face this alone. The creature laughed, that broken glass sound. Clever little Emma. Yes, Rose tried to protect you, but she also fed me with her own secrets, her own pain. Every harsh word, every moment of cruelty, every time she chose fear over love. I am her shadow as much as I am Diana's door. The equipment around us began to overload completely, showering sparks like deadly fireworks. The images on the walls grew more chaotic, showing not the past, but possibilities. I saw myself opening the door last night, the creature flowing into me like black water. I saw Emma swallowing those stolen pills. I saw Todd confessing his affair and losing everything. I saw all the ways our lives could shatter. "Stop it!" Janet suddenly screamed. Throughout everything she'd been quiet, but now she stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "I know what you are now. You're not just feeding on their pain. You're feeding on mine too, on the guilt of what I've done to them." The creature turned those terrible eyes on her. "Little liar. False cousin. You played with their hearts for money. Your guilt burned so bright I could feast on it for years." "Yes," Janet said simply. "I did. I lied to them. I pretended to care. But somewhere along the way, I stopped pretending. These people, this family I was supposed to betray, They showed me more kindness than my real mother ever did. They included me, trusted me, loved me even though I didn't deserve it. Janet, don't... I started, but she held up a hand. No, Vicki, let me say this. I've been selfish my whole life. My mother taught me that love was just another con, that family was just people you could use. But you all showed me something different, and if feeding on guilt makes this thing stronger, then maybe letting go of it will make it weaker. She turned to face us fully. I'm sorry. Not the manipulative sorry I was taught to say, but really truly sorry. I'll testify against my mother. I'll help you however I can. And if you never want to see me again after this, I understand. But please know that the love I felt for you all eventually was real. Something changed in the air. The creature's form flickered, becoming less solid. It hissed in anger, but there was uncertainty in the sound now. Emma stepped forward next. Those pills, she said quietly. I took them from Mom's hospice supply. I've been carrying them for 3 years. Every time things got too hard, I'd look at them and think about following her. I'm sorry I never told anyone. I'm sorry I've been carrying this alone. I grabbed my sister's hand. You're not alone. You never were. I'm sorry I didn't see how much you were hurting. One by one, we began to speak our truths. Todd admitted to his affair, to choosing his own happiness over family duty. Diane, cornered and defenseless, finally spoke about the jealousy that had poisoned her entire life. Madeline confessed that she'd known the house was wrong the moment she'd entered it but had been too greedy to leave. Even Grace, dear Grace, who'd been pulled into our family drama, admitted she'd been planning to ask Emma to move away, to leave us all behind. With each confession, each moment of genuine emotion, the creature grew dimmer. Its form couldn't seem to hold together when faced with truth freely given rather than extracted through pain. No, it howled. This isn't how it works. Families lie. Families hurt each other. That's what feeds me. That's what makes me real. Maybe, I said, stepping toward it even as every instinct screamed at me to run. But families also forgive. They also heal. And maybe that's stronger than pain. The creature backed away from me, its form now translucent, flickering like a dying flame. But as it retreated, the sparking equipment around us began to do more than malfunction. It began to merge technology and supernatural energy, creating something new and terrible. The cables writhed like snakes connecting to form a web that surrounded us all. If I can't have your pain, the creature said, its voice growing distorted, mechanical, then I'll take your lives. This house has claimed families before. You'll just be the newest residents in its collection. The web of cables began to close and sparking with lethal electricity. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with malevolent life. And I realized with growing horror that confession hadn't been enough. The house itself, the wound in the world the creature had spoken of, was still here. Still hungry. The breaker box, Madeline shouted. If we can cut the power, it might sever the connection. But the breaker box was on the far wall beyond the closing web of electrified cables. Someone would have to go through them, and chances were they wouldn't survive. I looked at my family, my real family, and my chosen family, all the complicated, messy, beautiful connections that made us who we were, and I knew what I had to do. I'll go, I said. The creature came to my door first. This started with me. Like hell, Emma said, grabbing my arm. We do this together or not at all. She's right, Todd added. No more sacrifices. No more choosing who gets to be the hero. We find another way. But as the cables closed in, as the creature's laughter filled the air like static, I wondered if there was another way, or if some wounds in the world could only be closed with blood. The cables were almost upon us when Janet did something unexpected. She pulled out her phone of all things and held it high. Madeline, the EMF from your equipment. It's creating a feedback loop with our devices. She was right. Our phones were all going haywire, screens, flashing alarms blaring. If we synchronized them, we might be able to disrupt the field. It was desperate and probably wouldn't work, but it was better than standing there waiting to be electrocuted. We all pulled out our phones, and Madeline, despite everything, immediately understood. Set them to airplane mode, then turn on all wireless functions at once on my count. The creature wearing our loved ones' faces snarled its form, now a horrifying mixture of everyone we'd lost features melting and reforming like wax. You think your little toys can stop me? I am older than your technology, older than your house, older than your lies. Maybe, I said, meeting those black eyes without flinching. But you're also trapped by the very thing that gave you form. Mom knew, didn't she? That's why she made sure we'd have to come together. Not just for the money, but because together we're stronger than any ghost. 3, 2, 1, now! Madeline shouted. We activated our phones simultaneously. The electromagnetic pulse from 7 devices shouldn't have been enough to do anything significant. But combined with the malfunctioning equipment and whatever supernatural energy filled the space, it created a wave of disruption that made the cables recoil like living things in pain. The creature shrieked, its form destabilizing completely. For a moment, I saw something else beneath the facade of our dead relatives. A writhing mass of shadows, fragments of all the souls who had died in this place, held together by nothing but pain and hunger. And at its center, a tiny figure, a baby with black eyes forever frozen in those 13 minutes between life and death. Diana, I breathed. The thing that had been masquerading as our mother stopped its attack. In that moment of recognition, something shifted. The baby at the center of the mass opened its mouth and a different voice emerged. Small, lost, confused. "Hurts," it said. "Everything hurts. Why does everything hurt?" Emma stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "Because you never got to live. Because you were caught in between. But you don't have to hurt anymore. You can let go." "I can't," the voice whispered. "Stuck. Always stuck. The house won't let go." That's when I understood. It wasn't just Diana powering this manifestation. It was the house itself, the wound in the world that had been here long before our family arrived. Diana had just been the latest victim, the freshest battery for something ancient and hungry. "Then we heal the wound," Todd said firmly. "We end this cycle." "How?" Diane asked, and for the first time since I'd known her, she sounded genuinely lost. The answer came from an unexpected source. Grace, who had been quiet through most of our ordeal, spoke up. "I work in historical preservation. I know this land's history. Before the asylum, before the settlements, this was a sacred site, a place where the indigenous people came to help souls cross over. The settlers built on it without understanding, trapped the energy, turned it dark. So what do?" I asked. "We restore its original purpose. We help the souls cross over. All of them." She looked at the writhing mass of shadows. "Including Diana." The creature roared, its many voices rising in protest. "No, I am their pain. I am their truth. I am everything they tried to hide. You're also their prison," Janet said quietly, "and it's time to let them go." What followed was less of an exorcism and more of a healing. We formed a circle, even Diane and her daughters, and began to speak. Not confessions this time, but releases. Forgiveness. Not just for each other, but for all the souls trapped in this place. I spoke to Diana, to the baby, who never got a chance. "You weren't thrown away. You were mourned. Rose knew about you, carried guilt about you her whole life. You were loved, even if you never got to feel it." Emma spoke to the asylum patients, acknowledging their suffering, their abandonment. Todd addressed the indigenous souls whose sacred land had been violated. Even Madeline and Janet added their voices, speaking to all the unnamed dead who had been forgotten. The creature's form began to shift again, but this time it wasn't violent. The shadows separated individual shapes, becoming visible. Men, women, children, all the souls who had been bound to this place by pain and neglect. And at their center, Diana, no longer the monstrous baby with black eyes, but just a tiny lost spirit. "But if we go," the creature said, and now its voice was just tired, not threatening, "who will remember? Who will know the truth?" We will," I promised. "We'll tell their stories. We'll make sure they're not forgotten, but they don't have to stay here in pain to be remembered." One by one, the shadows began to fade, not destroyed, but released. The asylum patients drifted away like smoke. The indigenous spirits moved with purpose as if returning to their interrupted journey. And Diana looked at us with eyes that were finally blessedly normal, baby blue like Rose's had been. Family, she asked in that tiny voice. Family, we confirmed together. She smiled the first and last smile of her existence and dissolved into light. The basement fell silent. The cables hung dead and lifeless. Madeline's equipment was thoroughly fried, thousands of dollars of technology reduced to scrap. But we were alive. We were together, and the oppressive weight that had filled the house was gone. The money, Diane said weakly. The accounts. Why, we'll figure it out, Todd said. Together. All of us, including you. Mom might have cut you out, but we don't have to continue that cycle. Diane stared at him in shock. After everything she'd done, we were offering forgiveness. Real forgiveness, not the grudging kind that still held resentment at its core. We climbed out of that basement different than we'd gone in. The house felt just like a house now, old and neglected, but no longer malevolent. As we stood in the front yard, Emma pulled out those pills she'd been carrying and emptied them onto the ground, grinding them into the dirt with her heel. No more secrets, she said. No more carrying pain alone. In the weeks that followed, we had a lot to sort out. Legal issues with Diane and her daughters, though we advocated for leniency. They'd committed fraud, but they'd also helped us face something that might have destroyed us individually. Janet, true to her word, testified against her mother, but also became a real part of our family. Turns out she was good at more than just deception. She had a gift for bringing people together for healing old wounds. The money was real, all $3 million of it. We could have kept it all, but that felt like perpetuating the cycle of greed and exclusion that had poisoned our family for generations. Instead, we used part of it to properly demolish the house on Maple Street and turn the land into a memorial park. A plaque commemorated all the souls who had been lost there, acknowledging the true history of the place. We set up a foundation with the rest one that helped families dealing with grief and generational trauma. Emma ran it channeling her own pain into purpose. Todd came clean to his wife about his affair, and while their marriage didn't survive, he found peace in living authentically. I kept the baseball bat Dad had given me, but now it reminded me not of fear, but of protection, of the strength we find in facing our demons together. Diane and Madeline served short sentences for fraud, but we visited them. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, but it did mean choosing healing over perpetual punishment. When they got out, they joined our foundation using Madeline's technical skills and Diane's organizational abilities for something positive. And sometimes late at night my phone rings. The caller ID shows unknown numbers, but I don't answer. Not because I'm afraid, but because I've learned that some calls are meant to go unanswered. Some doors are meant to stay closed. The dead have their place and the living have theirs, and the boundary between them should be respected. But I keep one voicemail saved on my phone. It's from my real mother left a week before she died. Her voice is weak, but full of love. Vicki, honey, I just wanted to hear your voice. I know things have been hard between us sometimes, but I need you to know how proud I am of you, how proud I am of all my children. Take care of each other when I'm gone. Love each other. That's all that really matters in the end. I listen to it sometimes when I need to remember that love, complicated and imperfect as it might be, is always stronger than pain. That families, whether born or chosen, are worth fighting for. And that some ghosts are laid to rest not through exorcism, but through understanding acceptance and the simple act of letting go. The house on Maple Street is gone now, replaced by a peaceful park where people come to remember and heal. And sometimes on quiet mornings, I swear I can see a baby playing in the sunshine there, finally free, finally at peace. Her eyes are blue like the sky, and she's smiling. Some calls are better left unanswered. Some doors should stay closed, but some wounds, no matter how old or deep, can heal if we're brave enough to tend to them together. That's what real family does. We face the dark together and we find our way back to the light. If this story resonated with you, if you've experienced loss or family secrets that seemed too heavy to bear, please know you're not alone. Share your own experiences in the comments below. Have you ever felt the presence of a loved one after they passed? Have family secrets ever threatened to tear your family apart? How did you find healing? Please hit that like button if this story touched your heart and subscribe for more true encounters with the supernatural and the very human drama that often lies beneath. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that forgiveness and healing are possible even in the darkest situations. Thank you for joining me tonight for being part of this journey through darkness into light. Remember, we're stronger together than we are alone, and sometimes the most powerful magic is simply the courage to face our truth with the people we love. Until next time, may your phone stay quiet at 2 a.m., may your doors remain locked against more than just the cold, and may you find peace in knowing that love, real love, transcends even death itself. Stay safe, dear viewers, and remember, family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up when the darkness comes calling.